Hey, KU fans, welcome back to KU Sports Extra. Another springtime episode, even though it kind of still feels like fall weather out there. What's going on with that?
Well, if you don't like the weather in Kansas, just stick around. It'll change in 20 minutes.
Okay, anyway, enough about that. Let's jump right into the good news. And the good news is our intro is over. It's finished. The real good news for KU Sports, though, this week is that Perry Ellis decided to return to Kansas for his senior season of basketball. That's great news for Perry Ellis. That's great news for this basketball team. It was a real cool way he did it. This has been done in the past a lot.
It was obvious to everyone that he was playing hurt.
Yeah, right.
I got a kick out of Self saying we hid that from the media. No, you didn't.
No.
He wasn't explosive as a jumper. His jump shots were falling short. Nobody fooled. I understand why Self said he's fine so that Perry would try to brainwash Perry into thinking he's fine, but please. He was a shell of himself, but he went out there and toughed it out. Got hurt right after his terrific string of basketball. Wow. This is great that he's back. I mean, you could have great freshmen who are going to have great pro careers, but are they going to be as good a player as Perry Ellis as a senior?
No, for this team, next year's team, that's exactly the news they needed. And I agree with you. Perry Ellis was wincing in pain.
Yes.
He was holding his
as
knee
was
on
reported.
the bench.
As was reported.
There was nothing being hidden at all, but hey, to each his own. The good news, though, is that he's back. I think more than ever, until this point, we've had Perry Ellis as a freshman, as a sophomore, as a junior, with the expectation and the hope that he would get better and improve and improve and improve. Never before has he had to get better like he will this year. The urgency should be there now. He understands exactly what is holding him back from being a first-round pick in the NBA draft. And I think that drive, that urgency that kicks in with a lot of seniors will be huge for him this year. I think you're going to see by far the best Perry Ellis you've ever seen. More the guy that resembles that 6-game stretch that you just talked about, and less the guy that resembles the guy that's passive, doesn't necessarily want to take over, doesn't necessarily even believe he can take over. I think he believes it now, and I think you will see it all next year.
I think you can even take it to a 9-game stretch when he averaged 18.8 and shot 54% and 50% from the three-point line. Not that he shoots a lot of threes, but he was really playing terrific basketball, one of the best players in the country as a junior until he got hurt. So he's going to be one of the best seniors. I'm going to do that column, look up and see who the best seniors are coming back next year.
It's a feel-good thing, too. I mean, it's nice to see guys stick it out for 4 years. Doesn't happen very often anymore. It does at a lot of programs, but certainly not at this level and these types of programs. So you've got Wayne Selden as a junior, Frank Mason is a junior, Brandon Green is a junior, Perry Ellis is a senior, Jamari Traylor. The list goes on. That's very rare at a place like Kansas or Kentucky or Duke to have that many veterans on one team.
Yeah, that's good news. And the bad news is it looks as if Shane Zenger, the athletic director, is not going to hire a junior college coach to become the next women's basketball coach when you have two terrific JUCO head coaches with Kansas backgrounds. Jim Turgeon, Mark Turgeon's older brother, grew up in Topeka. Won at Dodge City. Nobody wins at Dodge City. He could recruit to Dodge City. Of course he could recruit to Lawrence. Big-time winner there. Big-time winner at Iowa Western. Got them to the national tournament this year where they lost in double overtime I think it was in the Elite Eight. And then you've got John Anchez, played for Kelvin Sampson and Billy Tubbs at Oklahoma. And at Hutch Community College, John Anchez has made it to the title game in 3 of the last 4 seasons. Women's basketball, you don't care about winning the press conference because whoever you march up there, 99% of the people in town have never heard of the coach.
Right.
So that's the time you go with the best coach. And there have been magazine articles researching. It's not about whether a guy comes from a guy or girl comes from JUCO or from a head coach, mid-major, or a big-time assistant. No, it's not about that. It's about the person. 2 terrific candidates, and I only know 3 of the 5 finalists, but I haven't heard that either one of them is among the 5 finalists. Arkansas Little Rock, good coach Joe Foley, Brandon Schneider at Stephen F. Austin, who hasn't made it to the tournament with his team in 5 years, but they did make it to the first round of the WNIT this year and lost.
They know a lot about the WNIT here.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So that'll be a smooth transition. And then you have the Wichita State head coach, Jody
The Adams family.
Yes, Jody Adams, who's done terrific things there, but really is a tough coach. A lot of turnover in that program, so maybe that's an issue. But anyways, bad news that it looks as if he's not going to make John Onchez or Jim Turgeon the next head coach.
It's going to be a wild thing to see whichever person, guy or girl it is, and where they go and how it takes off, because it's a big time, and that program has a real opportunity right now. If they get the right person, it could take off. If they get the wrong person, more of the same.
Yeah, and I think you would agree that Rich Price is the right person for the KU baseball program. Not a real talented team this year, but they've done some good things recently.
My goodness, their pitching has been the biggest issue this season, and they knew that going in. They believed they had one of the best offenses in the Big 12, and that's proven to be true. I mean, their numbers are fantastic. They hit the ball all over the park. They hit it out. But their pitching really showed up last week against Oklahoma State, the number 9 team in the country. Their 3 starters went 18 2/3 innings in 3 games and had allowed 1 earned run. You get that from your 3 starters any weekend against any team, you're going to have a chance to win those games, and they did. They won 2 of 3, took that series, their first Big 12 series. They entered 1-6 or 1-5 in Big 12 play, and they came out the other side of it 3-6, still alive.
Kudos to Ryan Graves for working with the pitchers,
sure,
and to Rich Price for being a positive coach. Because when you have pitchers who might feel as if they're in over their head, the tighter they grip that ball, the more they're going to prove they're in over their head.
Right.
He's a great guy to play for. Reminds me of a manager that I covered for years in Major Leagues, Tommy Lasorda. Very positive guy who baseball's a grind, man.
Right.
Baseball players respond to positivity. Way to go, Rich Price. Way to go, Ryan Graves. And we got a chance to talk to some football coaches and players today, Matt Tate. What were the most interesting things you learned from Michael Cummings and Montel Kozak?
Yeah, quick football update. I think it was great. We got to talk to players, first of all. There was some talk before the spring session began that we might not get any of these guys because David Beatty doesn't know them yet. He doesn't know who he can trust. They haven't earned it, was a big theme there. But midway through here, enough guys have earned it, and the 2 quarterbacks were great. That was great to see them. It's funny because we talked about this a little earlier. We've talked to these guys a ton now, Montel Kozak, Michael Cummings, for a couple of years, a few years. We've heard them talk, and it sort of starts to sound the same because you know them so well.
Right.
But they both talked a lot about this new offense and how
simple it is.
Exciting it is, too. The simple fact that they just install it in 3 days gave them confidence right out of the gate, and Montel said, made them feel like they could just go make plays, and they had freedom to go make plays. Didn't have to think, didn't have to overthink. Michael Cummings said, I can't even tell you how many variations of plays and offenses and schemes and all this different stuff that we had in last year's offense. This year, I can tell you everything this does. Now it's just about going out there and doing it. And it was cool to see both of them talk about how they've been battling, how they've been learning, and they like these coaches already, and they like the philosophies, and they like the offense. It was awesome to hear.
Yeah, and Montel really did stress that it is a lot simpler, which I think is good for the freshman candidates, Ryan Willis of Bishop Mihage,
sure,
and Carter Stanley of Vero Beach, who just looks like a special guy who'd be a good fit for this offense. We touched on Perry Ellis making the decision to come back. Great news for Kansas basketball, obviously. And another thing that's good news is that they're going to be going to Korea, which means they get 10 extra practices.
Huge.
Which just puts them ahead of the game, and it gets a chance to really have the players, the new players especially, who will be playing, like Carlton Bragg and probably 1 or 2 guys to be named later, a chance to know self and self to know them. It just advances the ball.
Well, they understand. By the time October and the real practices roll around, they already understand what is expected, what it takes to play for a guy that's as demanding as Bill Self is, what it's going to take to play with these seniors and juniors that have been here and are tired of not getting out of the first weekend. I mean, Those guys are back with you hear the cliche all the time, the chip on their shoulder, but I think that's very real with this team. I mean, those guys were embarrassed 2 years in a row now, losing in that second round, and nobody wants that. Nobody expects that around here. So those newcomers will definitely learn early not only how to play for Bill Self, but how to play with a bunch of guys who are hungry and fed up. And I think that can only help There's going to be a couple exhibition games, too, in Kansas City, it sounds like, Sprint Center. So summertime basketball in a gym like that, I mean, that's cool. Something to do.
Maybe Czech Diallo will be with the team by then. Maybe even Malik Newman. Wouldn't that be exciting? But Malik Newman is really more of a luxury item now. He's not a necessity.
Right.
They've got the 5 good returning players, and I think Devontae Graham will make a big step, have the ball in his hands a lot, and maybe Frank Mason will play some shooting guard. And maybe Graham will be even better than Frank Mason at finding Perry Ellis.
Listen to this praise. Benton Smith, I think, tweeted it from the banquet the other night. Bill Self said, Devontae Graham's going to be the next Aaron Miles here, and he's a better shooter than Aaron Miles.
Wow.
Wouldn't you take that?
Yeah.
Aaron Miles was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he couldn't shoot that well. Graham can. And if
we
he
can already see he's a better shooter, but if he really believes that he can be that kind of facilitator, that's really exciting.
Yeah, definitely good stuff. All right, let's finish it off. Most obnoxious man in sports this week. Again, all kinds of candidates out there this week. I mean,
it was a good week.
Go for it.
All right, I'm going to go with Lawrence Phillips, who is serving a 31-year sentence, the former Nebraska running back who's had all sorts of bad things he's done in life. And his cellmate was found, quote, unresponsive and shortly thereafter declared dead, lifeless.
And I hate to laugh, sorry.
Yeah, God rest his soul.
It was your delivery, not the news.
And Lawrence Phillips is suspected since he was the only one in the room. And they know that he was in the room because the door was locked.
50-50 chance he did it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I'll put it to you this way. Let's say that I could guess, this could be a TV show. I could guarantee you $100,000, and all you need to do to earn that $100,000, and it's up to you whether you want. It's up to you whether you want to accept the challenge or not.
Okay, $100,000. This is a TV show, or
it could be.
Okay. $100,000 offer.
Is you be Lawrence Phillips' cellmate for 1 week.
1 week.
And if you don't make it out, if you're unresponsive at the end of that week,
I don't get the money.
No, your wife gets it.
Oh, okay. That's not bad. I would do it. Yeah, I'd do it. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why. I'm glad you asked. That's awesome. I love that question. I knew an offensive lineman who played for Nebraska when Lawrence Phillips was doing his thing there. And Tommy Frazier was the quarterback. A friend of a friend at my buddy's wedding, he was friends with this guy who grew up in, I think, Omaha and played at Nebraska, started on the offensive line. And he said Lawrence Phillips was the kindest-hearted dude in the world. He just ran with a bad crowd, and he wasn't very smart, and he didn't know how to stay out of trouble. Tommy Frazier, on the other hand, got all the love, quiet guy, seemed like the choir boy. People loved to worship him, and he was not a good dude. He was a jerk and a punk and all these things. So I'm going to go on that because I know this guy, and I'm going to hope that for a week at least that's true, and then I could just sit in there and talk about maybe books and, just landscapes like the Colorado Rockies.
Serene topics.
Just something.
Well, one of the things he's serving 31 years for is spousal abuse. So
I'm not his spouse.
Sometimes guys who do good things have mental issues and do really awful things. Yeah. And his cellmate was found unresponsive, and I'm guessing he knew his cellmate better than he knows you. You're not a convicted murderer. His cellmate was.
I'm no threat.
Well, here's what I would take it. I would take it as well.
Okay.
Same answer, different reasons. Number one, my knees are killing me. So if I'm found unresponsive, at least my knees aren't killing me.
That's a win-win, and you get $100,000, and right, okay.
And number two, the money would go to my wife,
right,
and she'd collect on the life insurance policy.
Man, this is going to a dark place.
So I would take it, but it would be, I think, a good idea for a TV show.
Yeah, I think our reporter skills could kick in too. We would just sit there and ask him about his glory days and talk about the game.
That's exactly what I would talk to him about.
Hey, you remember that Florida game where Tommy Frazier had that run? I saw your block.
Yes.
That was fantastic.
If you get a week to study up, watch film.
Yeah, he may have broken 11 tackles on that play, but I saw your block, Lawrence. That was the play of the game right there, and you and I both know it. That buy me 2 days right there.
Yeah, Lawrence, listen, I want to talk about one thing and one thing only today. Who do you think is the second best running back of all time? Is it Jim Brown? Is it perhaps Earl Campbell? O.J. Simpson?
Well, that's getting a little dicey.
That might be a little too close to home.
Yeah.
But
I would say we could pull it off, and I would say one thing we had to do for sure,
what?
Not call him Larry.
No, I wouldn't take that chance.
That could set him off for sure. All right, my most obnoxious man in sports this week is another convicted murderer. Go figure.
And a football player.
And a football player.
I guessed it.
This is incredible. Aaron Hernandez.
Cold-blooded killer.
Been on
no reaction.
trial for a long time for this deal that happened back in 2013. The verdict was released this week. Guilty of first-degree murder, life in prison without the chance for parole, exactly what he deserves. And when it was read, they showed the footage of the verdict being read on SportsCenter and whatnot. His face didn't move. He didn't so much as have any remorse or show any pain in his face, even if it was selfish. You're going away for life. That's what they just said.
Right.
You have to have some kind of reaction. The fact that he didn't was scary.
Chilling, I think, is the word you're looking for.
And very, very obnoxious. He just kept licking his lips and just kept,
creepy.
Yeah, it was. And you know,
he's like the Robert Durst of the football world.
Yeah, the reports were saying that this was a guy who walked into the courtroom every day like he owned the place, kind of like he used to do when he would walk into the New England Patriots locker room.
His perp walk.
That's scary, man. I mean, you're on trial for your life here. You got to have a little bit of remorse and fight here.
Here's a little twist.
Okay.
$250,000 for a week with Aaron Hernandez.
I don't know if I'd do that.
I wouldn't do it.
He scares me. I think Lawrence Phillips has a head you could connect with. I think Aaron Hernandez, if you asked him about one tattoo that he regretted getting, he might snap your neck on the spot.
Right, just
this
for the
has
sheer
been a very
joy of it.
Dark KU Sports Extra.
It has, but life can be dark, and it's not very bright out today. It's cloudy outside.
Right here, clouds. All right, that's all we've got this week. A lot of good stuff happening with KU Sports this week. Don't be confused by our obnoxious guys. They're called obnoxious because they're obnoxious. The rest of the stuff, a lot of good things happening for KU. Baseball, women's basketball, football, all kinds of good stuff. We'll have more next week with that spring game coming on KU Sports Extra. Thanks for checking out this episode.